You're listening to She's the Business podcast.
Who is it that you are being right now in your business, and how does that impact the results that you're seeing? Well, this is what today's episode is all about. This is about you, a bit of self-discovery, self-awareness, and understanding of where you actually are right now in your business. This is so powerful. Stay tuned. I know you're going to love this episode as much as I do. Coming right up.
Hi, I'm your host, Jessica Osborne, and in my 23 years of business and marketing, I've built many brands to become multi-billion-dollar companies. And just in the last 10 years, I've built 2 online businesses of my own from my dining room table with 2 little babies running around at my feet. I've made it my mission to inspire you to get out of your own way and become the successful business owner who's living the lifestyle you really desire without all the hustle. This is She's the Business podcast, made by women for women. This is your weekly dose of motivation and inspiration.
Hello, beautiful people. Now, who is it that you are being right now in your business, and how does that impact your business results, what you're seeing? Now, I first came across this a few years ago, and I thought at first, well, this is a funny question. Who am I being in my business? Well, of course, I'm being me, right? That's what it's all about. We hear so much talk about authenticity and being yourself, but today's discussion is not about your marketing. This is not about who you're showing up as online. This is actually about who you are showing up as in your business, i.e., the role that you're playing right now in your business. What is that role? And there are some categories that can help you really define what that role is. Now, before we get into it, I thought, why is this even important? Let's have a think about it. If you heard my last episode a couple of weeks back, it was all about the things that you need to unlearn to be in business, because we haven't grown up automatically knowing how to be an entrepreneur, automatically knowing what are those ways of looking at business and at your life and all of the things that make someone find business, being in business, starting a business and growing one easy versus hard. And, as you would have heard, if you listened to that episode, then I went into some of the key things that we've grown up with that we needed to unlearn in order to be able to step into the shoes of, the new age, the digital CEO, being the owner of an online business in today's world. So whatever you want to call it, you may not think of yourself as an entrepreneur, but you have started your own business and it's your creation, then yes, you are an entrepreneur, whether or not you feel like you are or not. So that's really cool, right? But who is it that you're being? The roles in a business, it's about really how you see your business, which is determining what that role is that you're playing in it. And as I have been talking to you last time about some of the things that I learned, especially starting this business I'm in right now, which is not my first one. This is my second online business. And even before that, I came from many, many years. I had 20 years marketing experience in corporate marketing. I wouldn't say corporate, some of them were startups, some of them were businesses, but in that world, as an employee, running marketing teams for other businesses, I had 20 years experience in that before I started this business. Yet coming into this as somebody experienced in marketing, but not trained in being a business owner, yes, there were definitely a lot of things that I needed to learn. Luckily, a lot of marketing wasn't really part of it because I understood the principles behind marketing, but it was who am I being in the business? And in my second year running the business, I came across this guy called James Wedmore, and he's now my coach and mentor. I've been working with him for the last few years. And this was probably one of the most insightful things that I gained from him in that early days that I first came across him. And what I've been working on ever since is actually my role in the business and who am I actually showing up as. It's something that really stuck with me at that time was, well, you are the bottleneck. If you're the person who's running the business, doing all of the things, having to do all the thinking, all the doing, everything involved in your business, then you're a massive bottleneck. Even if you have a VA, even if you have some people working with you, likely, depending on how you've designed your business, and most people haven't really got it this way, but you're probably creating a huge bottleneck that's fully reliant on you. So when you stop, the business grinds to a halt. Now, what James shared with me, which I thought was so powerful, was this concept of your business being a machine. So it's not a job that we've created for ourselves. It's not a baby that we have to, nurture and grow, that's reliant on us. It's actually something that's not reliant on us. It's the dead opposite of a baby. So your business is not your baby, and you really don't want it to be your baby. You want it to be able to run when you are not there. Yes, you set the vision. Yes, you set what it's going to happen. But this is the really unsexy part of it. It's actually the systems and processes, the functions in your business and how you've set them up to run that create that freedom and lifestyle, that create the freedom from you actually needing to be there all of the time. Now, James says that there are basically 4 levels that entrepreneurs may be at, 4 different roles that we're playing, which are aligned to, I guess, where we're at in our business. So you tend to graduate from one to the next to the next. And it's very interesting because it lends a lot of insights as to where your focus should be right now in your business, what that next stage is for you, the shift that you might need to take in order to get there. Otherwise, you'll continue to stay at the level that you're at, right? I highly recommend actually take his quiz, because it will actually take you through a series of questions. It's not very long, but it will give you the answer, the real answer as to the level that you're at right now. But I'll give you a quick insight as to what these are. I find this fascinating, and I've literally been probably at all of them at some point as well in my business. So we tend to start off, the first level, the first role that we're playing is the unpaid intern. And this is where you're wearing all of the hats. You're working really long hours, but there's nothing to show for it. So your business isn't yet generating any revenue. Then you graduate, you start to get clients, you become the overworked, underpaid employee, which is where you're really treating your business like a job and you're being the employee in your business. Now, I've spoken a bit about this before, and this is definitely something that I help a lot of people to shift out of this phase, because it makes an enormous difference when you can stop being the employee in your business and really start to be the leader and the owner, so that you're taking the lead, you're actually deciding and making a choice about where you want to be, as opposed to letting other people make the choices for you. Now, the next level that you grow to, that you graduate to, James calls the modern day marketer. Now, tends to be where, yes, you might have a bit of a team or some people helping you out. So you're no longer doing all of the things. Big focus on marketing. And there's just a lot of effort happening to market and sell in the business. Probably what we would call even too much effort. Like you're working long hours, putting everything in. And yes, the wheels are turning, but you're not yet at the final level, which is what James calls the digital CEO. Now, the digital CEO has a machine. They've done the work in the background to put the systems and processes in place to turn their business into an actual machine that can work while they're not working, that works and operates without them, that can grow with an exponential amount, and that's not related to the amount of effort that you're actually putting in yourself or with your team. Like, we don't want to grow our business by just adding more people and it growing by the same amount, because guess what happens then? You're not earning any more profit, because all of your money is going to paying for those resources, right? So that's not the way to grow. That's probably what I call the old way of thinking about business. And that's what I grew up with myself. So thinking in this different way about business being a machine was really, really insightful for me. And something that I really took on board. I decided way back then, I'm going to keep my business really lean, really low in terms of the amount of people involved in the team. But I'm going to use structure, systems, definitely processes. And this is where I love to get into automation and all of that stuff. But having that structure in place, that means that the business has growth potential within it. And it can kind of grow as fast as you let it. Often we're the ones that are holding it back. But it doesn't require more and more and more people. Yes, there will be some incremental growth in the support as a business grows, but you don't need to add more bodies to add more capacity, because that's not a growth model. So that's what we're aiming for, the digital CEO. Now, I have linked up in the notes in this episode for you a link to the quiz so that you can actually do the quiz and find out what is the role that you're playing right now in your business. Highly recommend doing it because, as I said, super insightful, very powerful. And James will actually give you a bit of a breakdown of what that means in much more detail than I've shared with you here, what that role means and, what those things are that you're potentially doing that you haven't been realizing, that you're putting your time and effort into, and how you can shift in order to graduate to the next level. So recommend doing it. I have made an easy link. So if you're driving right now or you aren't able to scroll through and click on it, then you can head to jessicaosborne.com/quiz and you'll get to his quiz through that, which is just helps you out, makes it a bit easier to remember because otherwise it's a long URL. Now, the other thing that you can do is dial in for his live training that's starting in a few days' time. It's called Rise of the Digital CEO. So, of course, this is actually all about what you need in your business in order to become that digital CEO. This is a really great free training. It definitely is a lot better than even a lot of paid programs I've seen out there. And it's so popular. People dial in, they do this training, even though he does it every year. I know people who have done this consistently year after year because you always gain something new from it. There's always a new aha moment, an insight, something powerful that you take away from it that you can implement right now in your business and see a shift. So that sounds good to you, then there's also a link to the Rise of the Digital CEO. And really, this is designed for people who have a business where it's a digital product business. That's James's expertise. So he's often talking to course creators, educators, online educators, and even authors, people who have a digital product to sell. As such, a course is a digital product. So it is for you if that's your type of business. You'll find the quiz link and the training for the Rise of the Digital CEO link in the show notes here. Please just go register, get into it, find out a little bit more about your business and where you're at right now. This is really all about you. And I always think that awareness of these things is our most powerful asset, because that is the way that we can change. Once we're aware of where we are, when we can see where it is that we want to be, and you're obviously then able to figure out what that gap is between it, right? But you have to know where you are right now in order to get where you want to be. So that's what it's all about. All right, that's it from me today. Thank you for tuning in and listening. I've really enjoyed and appreciate your company here. I hope you've been enjoying the podcast and not just this episode. So please feel free to leave a rating and review on the podcast. I love to read the reviews that I get from my listeners and the feedback. It is amazing. The audience is growing and growing. We've got people all over the world tuning in, and I just think that's fabulous. So wherever you may be right now, thank you for being one of my beautiful listeners on She's the Business podcast. Speak to you next week.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of She's the Business podcast. I hope that you've been enjoying it as much as I have in creating the content to bring to you. So I really appreciate you being here. I appreciate your presence and your attention. Now, if you love the podcast, or maybe you just loved today's episode, then I would absolutely appreciate it if you would go to Apple Podcasts, scroll down, hit the 5 stars, and then leave me a short review about what it was that you really enjoyed in this episode, or maybe in the podcast overall. And when I receive those reviews, then I love to give those reviewers a shout out on my future podcast episodes. So you never know, you may hear your name getting a shout out in a future episode if you do that. So thank you once again for your time, and I'll see you next time on She's the Business.